Hello team and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pitts. Ukraine war, I don't know, musing extra thing job. I was just, it's late night here and I was literally whispering to myself, looking at the laptop, rehearsing some kind of argument I'm having, I don't know, with you, with someone, with thin air. And I thought, I might as well speak to you guys and you can be my sounding board. And it's about ATACMS. ATACMS is on everyone's lips at the moment, or they are on everyone's lips at the moment. It is this subject that's really getting people annoyed. Now, I am annoyed that the US hasn't given ATACMS these long-range missiles everyone seems to know about. I'm not going to go into the details of ATACMS. I'm going to assume you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, go and look them up. So everyone's either really angry or very few people. I'm in this camp now. I'm not so angry because there must be a good reason. Let me explain my thoughts here. So, we're talking about rational actors. So, US government, Biden, Jake Sullivan, Mark Milley, or his replacement, the US military, Lloyd Austin. They're either making a rational decision, a sound decision, or they're making an irrational decision, a stupid decision, right? I don't know that I can really accept that many people with that much knowledge are just going to make a really dumb decision. I am really siding on the idea, siding with the idea that the decision not to send ATACMS is a rational one. It has to be a rational one. Otherwise, goodness me. Now, I know people love to hate Jake Sullivan for this decision, but I think he's being the fool guy for this decision. I don't quite know why they are not. I think actually I might have a good reason why they are not communicating the reasons clearly. But let's park that for a second. So either they're making a rational decision or a crazy decision. So I don't understand what the reasoning could be for the crazy decision other than de-escalation. And this is what people like Trent Telenko and others are accusing Jake Sullivan and the Biden administration for doing. Characterized by ignorance and arrogance, says Michael McKay. The appeasement faction led by Jake Sullivan has done irreparable harm to US national security. Joe Biden has determined that he would not provide ATACMS to Ukraine, but he is also not taking it off the table in the future. However, the US president will announce significant air defense potential for Ukraine, FP News reports. This kind of idea that it's ignorant and arrogant, I can't really get behind. It's easy to do that. Let's not be lazy, though. Let's not just say, they've made a decision we don't like. I really want that to be the case. I want Ukraine to get everything, the very best of what they can be given right now, and lots of it. And if someone doesn't do that, then they're stupid and ignorant. And rather than, they must have a good reason for that. Let's try and think what that reason could be. So if it's de-escalation, right, that's my if it's a bad decision, an irrational decision, then it's, what can it be? It can only be de-escalation, or as in not necessarily de-escalation, but we don't want to escalate, so anti-escalation. But they've given F-16s, so ATACMS are less of a problem than F-16s. So for me, de-escalation is totally nonsensical. It's not like Russia are going to go, right, ATACMS, you've given HIMARS, you've given M777s, you've given HIMARS, you've given main battle tanks, you've given F-16 jets. But ATACMS, that's crossed the red line. I'm going to send nukes to you now. That's not going to happen. We've learned now. Everyone has learned that there aren't really any red lines for Russia. These are these bogeymen that just don't exist. The monster under your bed is not there. So I don't get that. And to think that they still think that, I think is naive, right? I just can't. I can't believe that you'd have these big decision makers go, ATACMS are a little bit too much. So let's not do that. No, yeah. It seems crazy to me. So that to me doesn't work as a sufficient rationale for them not sending ATACMS. And since that's the only kind of irrational rationale I can think of, then there has to be a good reason for not sending them. So we have heard previously lots of reasons that have been offered that they haven't been sent or they're not being sent. The US don't, and actually some of these have been admitted by major US officials, like they don't have enough of them. They need them for their own strategic defense, and you can take these a little bit further. So you can add on things like, okay, it's not that the US needs ATACMS to defend its own shores, but actually there are strategic needs for ATACMS that aren't within Ukraine. So you could posit that actually they've ring-fenced ATACMS for a possible Taiwan conflict, and these would be more useful missiles. I don't know if this is the case, but I'm sure you could bring a case that it's more useful to keep these for Taiwan if needs be, right? Because actually, and we'll come on to this, Ukraine can have other stuff that we're going to help them with. And so, they don't have enough of them. They don't produce them enough. There's not enough in stock, not enough being manufactured. They need to ring fence them for Taiwan, and other arguments such as actually they're not as good as people say. They've got quite a big sort of aerial footprint. I don't know, probably the wrong metaphor there, but they might easily be detected by half decent air defense systems, and actually they can be shot out of the sky, and so therefore it might end up being a bit of a PR disaster or a bit of a operational failure or whatever to use these things. Okay, so you can, and I'm sure there are more. So you can build up this suite of reasons why actually they need not be given. Now, you then put that together with an alternative to ATACMS that is better for a bunch of reasons, and we can think about what these reasons might be. Then actually you start making some sense of why this decision is being made. So the question then is, well, why aren't they communicating all these reasons? I think part of it might be to do with Neptune. Now, this is a lot of speculation from me, but we have seen this elsewhere. Some people have talked about this. So if the US have helped develop Neptune, helped tinker with a anti-ship missile system that was just coming to fruition before the war started, and then maybe the US have helped them to tinker with that, so it's not just an anti-ship missile, but we're now seeing it being used as a anti-whatever missile, as in surface-to-surface missile. Then we have another piece of ordnance that can basically do what ATACMS does, but is being made indigenously. And if it's being made indigenously, and you might have the US going, here are all the parts to that. Here's some design help for that. Here's some targeting help for that and intel for that. You've got the US providing essentially everything that's needed. I mean, again, speculation, but you've got the US providing, in theory, everything that's needed for the design, production, and implementation, the use of the Neptune missile system. And this system can hit into Russia. And you've got people like John Kirby saying, yeah, it's up to the Ukrainians what they fire their stuff at. Then you have an alternative to ATACMS that the US can go, well, we ain't giving it to them officially. So, but because there's a bit of clandestine activity going on there with the help and design and parts and intelligence, it's not something they can easily come out and say. So Jake Sullivan can't say, we're not giving ATACMS because we are helping them with Neptune. That gets them into a bit of trouble. So they go, oh, ATACMS, and people go, what was that? Like, we still don't know why you're giving ATACMS. It's like, oh, but blah, 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 blah. And there's this kind of confusion, but there might be a reason why confusion is preferable to clear answers as to why ATACMS aren't being given. And then throw in another alternative to ATACMS that should be coming online anytime soon, which is the ground-launched small diameter bomb, which are these dumb munitions that have been tinkered with by Boeing and Saab to a bit like JDAMs are for aviation. So these dumb munitions giving guided capabilities and wings and fins and whatever to give them greater range and also greater precision. Well, they can do these with these other dumb munitions where they can add all this stuff to them and they become ground-launched small diameter bombs. So these are small diameter bombs, but they're launched from the ground, right? Rather than dropped from a plane, for example. And these can be sent up by HIMARS and have, double the range or whatever, 150 kilometer range. Okay, so now we've got an alternative to ATACMS. Might not be as good as ATACMS, but you put that together with Storm Shadow, Scalp, possibly Taurus, and Neptune, and ground-launched small diameter bombs. They've got heaps of multiple launch rocket systems that should be able to fire these, right? But it's just like, you've got this gap between when we really need them, when they're going to come online, because Boeing had to set up the production line for GLSDB. And that's the delay, but they're supposed to be coming online this autumn. And there's this period where we really want ATACMS, and they keep going, it's not off the table. We don't really want to give them, so we're not going to give them. But we're not going to tell you why we're not going to give them, because actually it's going to give away this, detail about the GLSDB and detail about the Neptune that we don't actually want to throw out there. And, and of course, cruise missiles that are being so well used at the moment. And that to me is a much more rational understanding of why they're not giving ATACMS. It makes much more sense of the data. The data is they're not giving ATACMS, but it's not off the table. In other words, if push comes to shove, if shit is a fan, yeah, I guess we can give some ATACMS, but we don't think we're at that point yet. And we're not at that point because actually we've got all these other things we're going to give, all these other things that we're doing under the radar that you don't know about. But that should give a similar kind of capability to the Ukrainians, so that we don't have to give ATACMS and possibly ring fence them, or possibly allow us to be able to give them to Taiwan if the need is there, or maybe we just don't have them, or they're not up to capability, or they'd be sitting in a warehouse and they'd be rotting and they're not very good, or whatever. All of the other reasons that we talked about earlier. So you put all of these pieces of that jigsaw together and you build up a picture whereby Jake Sullivan is coming out and having to say things that are deeply unpopular to a lot of people that really want ATACMS. I really want ATACMS to be given, because I just want everything to be given to Ukraine. But do you know what? I have to entertain the idea that actually the reasons they aren't being given might be good reasons. It's easy to just look at someone like Jake Sullivan and go, oh, you're such a de-escalation appeaser. Oh, God, you're so arrogant and ignorant. And then get on the kind of Trent-Zelenko anti-Biden administration bandwagon. But like I've said before, Biden's too busy and too old and too whatever to sit there and go, like I said to you before, you've got two options here with, say, Biden administration, Jake Sullivan, whatever. Either all of the army and all the departments are coming to them and they're saying, we should give ATACMS. And then Biden or Sullivan or both of them are saying, yeah, no, that ain't happening. Which is what? Why would they be doing that if all the people have the expertise? If you had quantum physicists coming up to you and advising you on quantum physics, right? And they're the people that know what they're talking about, and you don't know your quantum physics from your freaking zoology, right? And they come up to you and say, we really advise you do this with some quantum computing scenario. And you go, yeah, no, I don't think we should do that. That's not your field, man. You would really play to the experts. So with Sullivan and Biden, if all of those people are like, we need to give ATACMS, we really, really have to give ATACMS, if they're saying that, you can bet your bottom dollar Biden and Jake Sullivan will be doing that. I can't see that they would override all that expertise for some kind of weird escalation issue, or but they could be fired into Russia. HIMARS can be fired into Russia. You put them close enough and you got 84 kilometers into Russia. That argument is defunct. It was defunct a year ago when you gave HIMARS. So I just don't get that. And the only thing that makes sense to me, like, is that all those experts have come to you and said, yeah, I mean, you can give them, but actually we've got better options on the table for Ukraine. That then you got Biden and Jake Sullivan going, yeah, okay, well, you guys are the experts. Okay, let's go for that then, and let's help them in this kind of clandestine way with Neptune, and let's get the GLSDB online as quick as possible, and let's do that. Okay, that makes more sense. I don't know. I'm not trying to get like Jake Sullivan. I don't know who he is. I couldn't give a monkeys. I'm not trying to get him off the hook. I'm not trying to get Biden off the hook. I find it more difficult to accept that people in these positions are going to make stupid decisions when they've made comparable decisions that have been eventually good decisions, right? So M777, HIMARS, Abrams, F-16s. And of all of those, ATACMS sits somewhere in the middle there. It would just make no sense to go, yes, no. There has to be a good reason for that. Otherwise, they're insane. And I think it's lazy to think they're just insane. Let me know what you think. I'd be really interested. I know we've gone over this a bunch before. I know this is a bit of a ramble, but I feel quite strongly about this, as you can probably guess. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. Speak soon.